This is time to move on with the announcement for India Economic Forum Awards for Economics. I have the pleasure of inviting Rama Baru, Professor from Jawaharlal Nehru University for Public Health. Her academic pursuits have focused on health policy, international health, privatization of health services, and inequalities in health. She has published extensively on private healthcare and health services at school level in India. She is a rare academic with ground level experience whose expertise has been sought by the Government of India, World Health Organization, and Indian Council for Medical Research. She also engaged with UNDP and supported research at the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health, JNU, outside the confines of a medical college. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ramaji. You know, in SKOCH, we are never short of anecdotes. This is India Economic Forum and the awards were for economics. So we said that, and you know, I am not an economist. Fortunately, I am a common sensist. So when we asked, and so is Vivek actually, so when we were looking for the award for public health, he recommended Rama Baru and her work.
That's not supposed to be public.
Well, between friends. So he supported, he endorsed. He was not the only one, there were many more. So when we spoke to Rama Baru, and she says, but public health is not economics. I said, listen, you know, after COVID, I think it's the most important part of economics. But since you insist it is not economics, we're not giving you an India Economic Forum Award. We're giving you the SKOCH Challenger Award, which is for the social sector.
Thank you so much, Samirji and the SKOCH Foundation. It's an honor to receive this award. And it is a double honor because it is actually recognizing our center, the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health, which is outside a medical college located in the School of Social Sciences, where I've spent almost 3 decades. I also want to say that I've had the great privilege of mentoring several generations of students who have made this project really worthwhile. And to my family and all my friends here, thank you so much.
Now, as you all know, Rama Baru has a naughty husband. His name is Sanjay Baru, who wrote the book The Accidental Prime Minister. Sanjay, please join and tell us something about your wife.
Well, first of all, let me say that I was delighted that you've chosen Rama for this award. What I want to mention, which she has not mentioned and you have not mentioned, is that Rama is also a visiting professor at the China Normal University in Wuhan and came out of Wuhan 1 month before COVID. And has escaped Wuhan, but she has immense amount of work on Chinese healthcare apart from Indian healthcare. Probably the only public health person in India who's published a book on Chinese healthcare. So that's what makes me very proud of her work.
So with the full disclosure, like I had nothing to do with demonetization, she had nothing to do with COVID.
Professor Sudipta Mandal for Economic Policy. Macroeconomic policy modeling and rating the governance performance of Indian states are amongst the few things that Sudipta Mandal does. He has been a senior advisor NCAER and was on the board of governors NIPFP, served as member of the 14th Finance Commission and chairman of the National Statistical Commission. All the institutions have benefited immensely from his expertise in macroeconomics, development economics, public expenditure and governance.
So congratulations, Dr. Mandal. I've had the honor and the pleasure of knowing you for such a long time. I've seen your work in Finance Commission and so many other places. A few words.
Thank you so much, Samir Bhai. It's a great honor to receive this award, and it's also very humbling, keeping in mind all the very eminent persons who have got these awards from SKOCH in the years past and also on this occasion. I'm actually reminded of a very similar occasion maybe a month ago when the Indian Press Institute was making awards of this kind for very special journalists for this year. And in his keynote address, Mark Tully made these remarks that in the context of journalism, that it's very important that whatever you write is firmly based on evidence and that is also balanced. And I think this is something that also applies to the world of economic policy, following a principle of being evidence-based rather than based simply on views and opinions, and being balanced is something very important. Thank you very much.
Mr. Siraj Hussain for Agriculture Economics. During his tenure as a member of the Indian Administrative Service from 1979 to 2016, he served departments of agriculture, agro-processing, cooperation, food management and food processing. He was Secretary Agriculture and Food Processing. Several schemes of the first Modi government were formulated under his supervision as Secretary Agriculture. A prolific writer, he has authored several research papers on agriculture and the rural economy. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Siraji. I have known you for many years. I think it started when you were in FCI. You did computerization of FCI and Russian started reaching. And that was, I think, even before you were JS or you were JS then. So congratulations. Our association has been very long and I've been a very long-standing admirer of all that you've done for agriculture sector in India.
Thank you, Mr. Kocher. There are many economists in this room who have been writing on agriculture policy and agricultural economics. The recommendations are generally unanimous that we should have less subsidy and more investment, mostly ignored by the government, all these recommendations. So the next 2 years will prove whether even a win in an election can persuade the government to accept the advice of eminent economists. Thank you.
Congratulations. And Madam is also here. Mrs. Hussain,
Thank you, Samir Bhai. As you have just mentioned, I have been behind him for decades now. And in fact, when he ventured into the field of writing articles, I was the one who used to do the proofreading. So,
his spelling is still bad, huh?
So
she used the past tense, now it's deteriorated.
So that I think encouraged him to write more and more of it. And one thing which I admired about him, of course he's my husband, so I admire him for many more reasons, but about his writing, that I found that he has always been very objective, very, very objective. So I think that is what has taken him places in this field of writing, which he ventured after his retirement. Thank you very much for recognizing it.
Pleasure is ours.
Professor Ashwini Deshpande for Gender Economics.
I normally use a muhavra, "Hum Bharat ki nari hoon, shola nahi chingari hoon." Ashwini ji.
She is a mix of a theorist as well as a practitioner. Her work revolves around the economics of discrimination with focus on caste, gender and affirmative action. A firm believer that whether it is farms, livestock rearing or running grocery stores, the success of most such family enterprises is on the backs of unpaid family labor by women. The UN research project Women's Work Routes to Economic and Social Empowerment has immensely benefited from her accomplishments. Her focus remains on improving opportunities for women to enhance their economic empowerment. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Samir ji and SKOCH Foundation for this award. Being an academic is a bit of a lonely enterprise. You sit in your room in front of your computer and churn out numbers and write papers and hoping that somebody other than the journal editor is actually going to read them. So it's really very heartening to see that somebody read the papers or at least some part of the results and decided that it was enough for an award. I have to mention that because this notion of inclusive growth and sustainable growth came up in the context of the environment, but I have to say that recently I was on a TV show, and my opponent said, you know, you're not interested in the size of the cake. You're only worried about how the cake is going to be distributed. So, you know, what we have to recognize today is that the size is not going to grow if everybody, particularly women, are not going to be a part of the productive process. So all those of us who are worried about the size, know this, that if we don't include women in as a part, women and other marginalized sections as a part of the growth process, the size of the cake is going to remain small and may even shrink. So,
Thank you so much. But husbands do matter, so do men, and her husband is here and so is her daughter. May I invite them to join us on the stage?
I'm of course delighted that Ashwini has got this award. I'm also an economist, but sort of a useless economist. I'm a theorist. But I, about 5 other people, read what I write. But of course, Ashwini and many of you here are different. You work on sort of the real stuff. I have seen how hard Ashwini works. While I'm watching cricket on television, she's hard at work on her computer. So I'm truly delighted.
I think the only thing I'd like to say is that it's appropriate that she's getting this award for gender and economics. I've watched her growing up, and she practices what she preaches, and I couldn't be more proud that I am her daughter. So thank you so much.
Professor Mahendra Dev for Development Economics. His work spans agriculture development, poverty, public policy, inequality, food security, nutrition, employment guarantee schemes, and farm and non-farm employment. With such deep-rooted focus on development economics, he has published over 120 research publications across such domains, including over 20 books. With such outstanding work on development studies, he headed the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices for Ministry of Agriculture. He is a votary of social sector schemes having positively impacted women's well-being, empowerment, and intra-household decisions. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Professor Dev. I have known him since, I think, 2008 when I was doing a film on Dr. Rangarajan, and I said, who are the people that are the closest to you? And Professor Mahendra Dev's name was one.
Thank you, Samir and the SKOCH Group for this award. It's a privilege, for recognizing me for my work in development economics. In fact, I've started working on this inclusive growth, which many people, said. In fact, 2008, I published a book on inclusive growth, which Montech has released. But that time, in a lighter vein, we didn't know what was inclusive growth. Even the Planning Commission, the 5 blind men, like an elephant kind of thing. So maybe 5 blind men are the Planning Commission members that time, what was inclusive growth. But over time, of course, it's more getting recognized, and Vivek Debroy also mentioned, clarified some of the things, poverty, inequality, differences. But as Ashwini mentioned that, inclusive growth is also important for growth, because of the demand generated by the inclusive growth. So thank you very much for the recognition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I now invite Professor Radhika Kapoor for Labor Economics. She's contributed extensively to research on areas including poverty and inequality, labor economics, and industrial performance. For the last 5 years, she has worked on various facets of India's labor market, in particular in the areas of informal sector, the impact of technological changes on the world of work, and the measurement of employment and unemployment. She has alternatively focused on contract labor's strategic advantages to the organized sector. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Radhika. For an economist that looks like a teenager, her work is so profound. So profound. When she came, I have never met her face to face. Today was the first time, and I was not expecting this.
Thank you so much for this award. It's truly an honor, and I think it's an even greater honor to receive this award amongst this distinguished list of awardees. I'm particularly delighted and grateful to Sameerji and the SKOCH Foundation for actually having this category of labor economics in your awards, because labor economics actually doesn't get the attention that it truly deserves in the Indian policy discourse. It's something that needs to be front and center, because it's both, the greatest challenge that India faces and also the greatest opportunity, given that just 40% of our working age population is actually in the labor force. And it's something that is very underappreciated, and I myself actually did not appreciate the importance of this subject till about 7-8 years ago. And Mr. Ahluwalia has now left, but I should mention, and also because the theme here is poverty and inclusion, that when I came back to India and I wanted to do my research and work in a think tank, I was hired by ICRIER, and I went to meet Dr. Isha Ahluwalia, and I said, I only want to work on poverty. She said, what does that mean? So I said, basically, I want to write papers using the consumer expenditure survey data. And she said, I don't think that's a smart idea. If you really care about poverty, you should work on labor, employment, because a productive job is the best form of inclusion. So, she's not with us anymore, but I do want to mention that she played a big role in pushing me to do this, and I hope by putting in categories like this, many other young researchers will also want to work on these areas, which somehow get a little lost in the whole glamour of macroeconomic modeling. So thank you so much.
Mr. Ajay Thakur for MSME Enablement. With 26 years of experience in capital markets, spanning India's biggest custodian to India's largest and one of the world's fastest stock exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, Ajay has played a pivotal role in setting up the BSE SME and Startup platform. BSE today is the largest SME platform in India with 365 companies listed and many more in the pipe. These companies represent 17 diverse sectors that have raised an amount of rupees 3,844 crore with a market capitalization of nearly 50,000 crore rupees. Congratulations.
Congratulations. ये हम सब MSMEs का बड़ा भाई है. 55,000 crore market capitalization for MSMEs. It's amazing. He's our last resort, our only hope, because no one else cares.
I'm extremely thankful to Sameerji and the SKOCH group. It's really a pleasure to be here. A journey which was started on no hope. Perhaps I was the only person who was self-motivating. And there was no taker of SME platform for the merchant bankers. It was not a big deal. And just after launching this SME platform, I thought that after 3 months I have to resign from the stock exchange. But we keep on fighting and we have a belief. We created a full ecosystem, new ecosystem. And let me tell you, in last 10 years, I have met 36,000 SME promoters across the country. And 10,000 chartered accountants, 5,000 company secretary. And because of lack of financial literacy, we have only 365 SMEs listed. And let me tell you, another 60, 70 are in pipeline. But it's very hard to bring them on the SME platform. Still, we keep on working. But these 365 companies, from the primary market, they have raised 3,800 crores. And from the secondary market, they have raised another 1,500 crores. So we keep on doing this good job. And I'm hopeful that in the years to come, many of the people will get associated with the SME platform, because to give equity funding is the most difficult task. And that also to the SME promoters. We can talk so many things, but when it comes to giving the equity funds, the most difficult thing. But we keep on doing this difficult thing because we enjoy in that. And that's why BSE over last 147 years has created $3 trillion market capitalization and associated almost 10 crore investors with the stock exchange. So with these words, thanks a lot to you, Samir. Thank you.
What I would really like to know is from Mrs. Thakur, when he was meeting 36,000 MSMEs, how upset were you? Please come and share. Did he leave any time for you?
No, no. Thank you very much for recognizing me.
That is why he met 36,000 SMEs.
But let me tell you, in last 10 years, I think I had hardly spent time with my family, and I don't know how they grow old and what they are doing. But finally, she is giving them, good education, संस्कार वगैरह सारी चीज़ें दे रही है, और इसके लिए मैं इनका अनुग्रहित हूँ, और साथ में समीर जी आपका अनुग्रहित हूँ, क्योंकि अगर इकोनॉमिस्ट को इतने ऐसे रिकॉग्निशन मिलता है तो मेरे ख्याल से स्टॉक एक्सचेंज ऑफिसर को तो मैंने कभी रिकॉग्निशन मिलते नहीं देखा. तो आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद समीर जी. थैंक्स अ लॉट.
Dr. Mohan Kumar for Trade Economics. Ambassador Mohan Kumar has had an illustrious career in Indian Foreign Service lasting 36 years. The strategic relations and trade partnership between India and France grew remarkably under his watch during his tenure as the Indian ambassador to France. He was also actively involved in the Climate Change Accord of Paris in 2015 and has enormous expertise in the area of international trade and multilateral negotiations. Congratulations.
Congratulations. And Mohan ji, of course, represents two of the institutions that we work with very closely, OP General University as well as RIS, and he's done very good service, and he supported us in backing out of RCEP.
Thank you very much, Bibekda, whom I hugely respect. It's good to have you, sir. Samir ji, thank you very much for this honor. Look, I will not conceal from all of you that I am an outlier. I'm not a pure economist. And by the way, it's interesting. Radhika ji, who was one of the previous awardees, mentioned Isha Ahluwalia. I also want to do that. I met her in Paris, and it was she who told me, why don't you do a PhD? Your views on WTO are so clear. Mr. Montek Ahluwalia has left, but I must place on record, it's thanks to Isha that I went to Sciences Po in Paris, and I said I would like to do my PhD there even when I was ambassador there. And Sciences Po took 3 months to decide whether my thesis fitted into their Department of Economics or Department of Political Science. And finally, I think they said it's easier that you do it in political science. But really, my claim to fame, and I'm so honored by this award, my only claim to fame is that in the Indian Foreign Service, it's unusual to specialize in trade and economics. It would have been far easier for me, thank you, it would have been far easier for me to do something sexy like Pakistan, sexy like Russia, China. We have experts on those. So when I specialized in international trade, and you have to walk into the foreign secretary's room and ask for a posting, I remember doing it to one of the foreign secretaries, and she said, frankly, I don't know what the hell to do with you. You specialized in GATT, WTO. I can't send you to Geneva. That's an IAS job. I can't send you to Ministry of Commerce. You will be humiliated by the IAS guys. What do I do with you? So she very much wanted to kind of, tell me that, listen, how do you solve a problem like Mohan? So finally I said, there's one thing you can do. Repeatedly send me to Geneva. So fortunately she agreed with that. I spent 10 glorious years in Geneva, negotiating first with the GATT and then the WTO. And that meant, of course, compared to my batchmates, I became an ambassador almost 5 years later. But I think it was well worth it. And therefore, I really take this award very, very seriously. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much.
And to reveal a secret, he is the only one I know of who wrote the thesis by hand. Not only did he write it by hand, he wrote it with a fountain pen.
Wow! Oh, wonderful. I hope the manuscript is safe somewhere.
It is still safe, and because I'm an old-fashioned bureaucrat, I'm 65 by the way, I color my hair, so don't get taken in. But when we joined the Foreign Service, we were taught dictation skills. You have to dictate something to the PA. By the time I got on to doing my PhD, my PS was busy with other things, private secretary, but I had two of them, one of whom was actually playing cards all the time in Paris. I said, I'll write the thesis. All you have to do is type it out. Just don't make any mistakes, because frankly, the quality of private secretaries that we had 25 years ago, we don't have them now. Now, if you dictate, you'll have to dictate it 10 times. You know, it'll come back with all sorts of errors and so on. So I actually wrote it out. Thank you very much, Vivek, for remembering it. I share one thing with this great man, which is that we share a real fondness for pens. So I actually wrote it on Swiss stationery with a Mont Blanc pen, 500 pages. So thank you.
Since so many of you mentioned Ishar, let me share my favorite Ishar story. Ishar and Montek, you know, as a part of our Lifetime Achievement Award, is that you're forced to have a meal cooked by me. This is curated by me, but that one you have to endure because I actually cook it. So they came home for that meal, and Ishar was, you know, eyeing this bottle of pickle on my table. It was gobi shalgam ka khatta meetha achar, and she says, where did you get it from? And I said, this is a recipe from my auntie Prem, who taught it to my wife. It was a family secret. She wouldn't even give it to me. But somehow my wife managed to curry favor and got it. And this is originally from a person called Vadhava Singh in Lahore. And she said Vadhava Singh was her grandfather. And she went back with the whole jar of the pickle.